philosophical views behind boredom. After analyzing a history of Western philosophical perspectives, I've come to see that throughout history there have been many recorded ideas of how to interpret the actual idea of boredom. From the causes of boredom to the idea of how boredom can negatively affect someone, or even thought about in the slightest amount the positive effects boredom can have. Through the periods of time, I think we can see human reaction change from thinking boredom is a negative effect only to slowly seeing boredom becoming a moment of awakening, as Martin Heidegger describes in his discussion during his 1929-1930 lecture. We start in the ancient and medieval times. While most philosophers seem to relay the same message, boredom comes when oneself is doing much of the same, repetitive things without accomplishment or change in scenery. I think Acidin's approach on it seems much different because he relates it to God or calls it demonic. But if we interpret disease that waketh at noonday, we come to a similar conclusion. Life being repetitive with no new challenges or motivation is wasting life, which leads to the cause of boredom. When we get to the early modern period, we can see somewhat of a relation between Pascal and Kant. The person who is inactive becomes bored, or as Pascal stated, the human's natural state of quiet, peace, and rest without diversions is the cause of boredom. Interestingly, Pascal states boredom is being without God, while Kant says that to also build a relationship with God. But if we focus on the context rather than what is said, it takes us back to the ancient and medieval times. I think it's not so much of having a relationship with God, rather than having a reason to live, a motivation, a purpose, or as Kant quoted, some type of activity to live for, which they use as worshiping God. Moving on to the 19th century, we are starting to distinguish similarities in boredom. Most until now see it as negatively affecting oneself and the causes of it being inactivity and life around them. Or, as I interpret, no motivation to contribute to a bigger purpose, content with day to day life without any fulfillment. Schopenhauer approaches this topic many different ways, stating that boredom is caused by one being too intelligent. He even goes to lengths saying that it can lead to death or harm. While those two ideas seem vastly different than the others, we come to his second and third idea. His second stating that boredom is caused without being entertained by an object. His third, which is the most important to me, because he clearly states how I interpret boredom, and I think many other philosophers do as well, just in different words. Boredom is the sensation of the worthlessness of existence, the idea of living without a purpose. How I see it, living just to live, never truly living for fulfillment or accomplishing something bigger than oneself. One interesting take on boredom is the one of Nietzsche. He relates most of boredom to religion, showing how we can see it as evil and bad, but in reality it's more about boredom is a waste of the short life we live already. Rather than be bored, we should be more active in it, be more active in life, as philosophers before him stated. Come to the last and final part, the 20th century, which is my favorite part, actually. While Russell relates boredom to the cause of sin, as some philosophers before him, he finishes by saying not all boredom is bad, that it is required in a sense to achieve great things. Then we get to my favorite philosopher of them all, Heidegger. He describes boredom as a mood, like anxiety, used to keep oneself in harmony. He states is differences to boredom. Are you bored with something or oneself? Boredom in oneself must be awakened. He states that we must awaken our boredom to see the true meaning of things, the emptiness and nothingness. You might ask, why would we do that? He tells us boredom prepares the mind for profound vision. I interpret that as seeing boredom as the key to finding your purpose, unlocking your potential in life. Once realizing that a life without meaning and fulfillment is full of emptiness, only then can we change ourselves in pursuing something different. Unlocking creativity, a reason to live, an activity to occupy our time, a task that requires our attention and effort. So not only is boredom a sign of emptiness, a feeling of worthlessness, as some of the other philosophers would say, a feeling of inactivity, a lack of motivation, or even no reason to live. It's also a blessing to help us challenge ourselves, forcing us to be creative in new ways, making us find new reasons to live or new ideas to accomplish. Boredom can be seen as many different things, but I see it as a reason to change, a reason to live, and become someone with a purpose, a reason to create something out of an idea you never knew you had, a reason to change the life we live in.